And we're back. It's time to pass the rock to Caesar for this week's NFL coverage.
Thank you, Patrick. Fellas, both of you guys have a lot to be happy about with your football teams of this week, or this past week. And we're just going to get right into it, right? Let's recap the week that was. Eagles on a bye. They couldn't hurt me this week.
You gotta start doing your best boomer impressions whenever you're doing it.
What? Nobody circles the wagons like the Buffalo Bills. No one's imploding like the Buffalo Bills, but we'll get into that later. Alright, fellas, we're going to start off with the team that everybody loves to hate and hates to love. It's the Dallas Cowboys, who destroy the Italian Stallion-led New York Giants. Tommy DeVito out here repping a whole ass 3.2 yards per attempt. 2 touchdowns and an interception.
Uh-oh.
49-17.
Whoa. Cameron, calm down real quick. Are we all back?
I never thought so deep.
I lost everybody.
Yeah.
But it seems that...
Did you hear us?
No, I missed everything after you were talking about the Italian Stallion.
Yeah.
Connor Stallions?
Tommy DeVito.
Tommy DeVito.
Who I think
You
you
wanted
might have
to
called
take the top
Tony
or should I keep
DeVito
going?
last week. I might have gotten that
I
wrong.
did.
I think I
did.
confirmed
I
it.
think I also called him Tommy as well after looking it up, but I can't remember. But yeah, Tommy DeVito, New York Giants get blown out by the Dallas Cowboys. It was inevitable. The line, I believe, in this game was a 17-point line, which the Cowboys easily cleared. That was the easiest bet to make all weekend long. We're looking at the worst team, I believe, in football right now is the New York Giants. And one thing to note about the Dallas Cowboys is they continue their win streak after a loss. All right, they are 11-1 following a loss in the Mike McCarthy era. So if there's one thing that Mike McCarthy has proven to be able to do really well for these Dallas Cowboys, it's one, beat up on the bad teams for the most part, and bounce back after a loss. So that is something to look forward to, or not necessarily look forward to, but rather that is something to hang your hat if you are a Dallas Cowboys fan, hoping for a late season push, is that this is a team that won't stay down after getting down. All right. The only hope you want now is that you can beat a good team, and they'll have plenty of opportunities down the stretch, and we'll talk about that a little bit later. But let's move on in the recap portion to the Minnesota Vikings. Patrick, go ahead and hit the horns. All right. So, Josh Dobbs did it again. This man led the Minnesota Vikings to a win over the New Orleans Saints. I gotta say, thank you for that, because I need to see the Saints lose more. We have their second round pick.
We all love to see it.
Shout out the Minnesota Vikings for that one, as they more than handled business. I believe that was a home game for the Vikings, if I'm not mistaken.
Sorry, yeah.
Yeah, so they definitely did what they needed to do. I'm happy for them. I'm happy for Josh Dobbs. I'm going to go ahead and take this opportunity to just gush about this smart football player. Becky, you said it somewhere in one of our chats. You are a fan of smart football players. You are pro smart football players, and I don't think we could have asked for a better one to root for down this late stretch, as Joshua Dobbs puts 27 points on the board for the Minnesota Vikings. Dude, I don't know what to say. This is one of the most impressive seasons from a guy who came out of nowhere. I know that in his time with Arizona, he did not have a winning record. He only had the one win. Impressive win, right, against Dallas.
No, but he was playing with the Arizona Cardinals.
He was just playing for the Arizona Cardinals. So there is a reason to kind of take what you saw and try to contextualize it. And like, yeah, this guy was being impressive. And again, another impressive
Cowboys,
performance. Right? Yeah. And it was 20. He's 23 of 34 against the Saints, 268, a touchdown, and he put up 44 yards on the ground and another touchdown there.
Yeah, he beat the Cowboys once.
Just once. You don't have to worry about him maybe beating you guys a second time.
Playoffs.
Unless something weird happens in the playoffs. But yeah, no, in this game though, I gotta say this. Not necessarily just in this game, but in the previous game against the Falcons, he's proven something. That if you have the requisite athleticism to make plays out of structure, you can make up for not knowing the playbook to some extent. And I know he had a week to prepare and go through a full week of practice. There's no way in hell he knows the entirety of that playbook, not even probably half that playbook. So they're probably
there's a
guiding
video
him through.
out that I was watching today of the hot mic audio between Kevin O'Connell and him on one of those touchdowns. When he ran in the touchdown, where he's like running down the field before he snaps that, and coach is like, "You want me to give you the play? I'll just give you the play." And he's like, "I'm still gonna tell you all these. I'm just gonna read them into your headset, gonna explain it entirely to you."
And there's a really good video out that I saw earlier today, made by Ben Solak of The Ringer, who breaks down Josh Dobbs' success and just how they kind of operated how they operated the offense, which is basically this. There's a lot of universal concepts in football, and you can kind of have a general idea once you're at this level, what certain passing concepts are and where the ball should in theory go, right? And you see a lot of that with Josh Dobbs, where he's like, yeah, in theory, this ball should go right here, and we'll just let the receivers make me right. And they did that a lot. So it's been impressive. I believe the Vikings are on a 5-game win streak right now?
Yeah, started 1-4.
Yeah, and they're comfortably in the playoff picture as the 7th seed, with a very dangerous element they haven't had in a long time, and that's a quarterback who can make plays with his legs.
Yeah.
So
we'll see where this Teddy, goes. But pretty much that was it.
What's up?
I said a little bit with Teddy, but pretty much that's been it since Culpepper. And even then, he wasn't really doing a whole lot of that.
No, I mean, he was a big guy who could move, but he really was a big game hunter back in his
Painkiller Favre kind of had a little bit more agility there.
He had some escape the pocket ability, yeah, for sure.
He could escape pressure, but he can't escape the law. Anyway,
so far he's been
sorry,
fine.
Don't sue us.
So far, he might. He actually might.
He might. Yeah, that kind of covers the recap portion of this week. Let's go ahead and move on to our main talking points, and that is, first and foremost, I know we said we're going to scrap MVP talk in the behind the scenes, and we're going to do that because we got to talk about one thing in particular. Fellas, I already hinted at this during the break. I'm going to play this video. We're going to lead on with the Cleveland Browns and their quarterback.
You're going to hate this one. The only reason NBC picked up The Girly Show is because of the flack they got from women's groups after airing the action drama Bitch Hunter. Happy birthday, bitches!
All right. That might be a poor taste. I don't know, but you know what? It's fine. You can't cancel what doesn't have a large audience. At least not yet.
Cancel it, you try hard enough.
I mean, we'd get a much larger audience if we got canceled, so.
That's true.
True.
I'm not encouraging it, but.
Pass the Rock, sponsored by Patriot Mobile.
Oh, God. Oh, man. Let's hope not. Or whatever. I don't care. Anyway, let's talk about it. Deshaun Watson is out for the rest of the 2023 season, as the news broke earlier today that we're recording, Wednesday, November 15th. He is out with a fracture in his throwing shoulder. He has, in his time as a Cleveland Brown, only been available for 12 games. He's played 12 games, and he has never, not one time, looked like the guy that has the highest paid contract in terms of
they
guarantees.
had like a 2-score lead in the AFC Championship game.
Yeah,
at halftime. Remember that?
who had a lot of people convinced he really could be in GOAT conversations.
I mean, it looked really
he looked
good.
like it.
It looked really good.
He was on pace, and then his legal troubles came out. He sits out voluntarily for a whole season. He was never suspended. He just chose not to play when he was with the Houston Texans his last year. He was just constantly in the sidelines. He reported to training camp. He reported to every game. He was just not played. So who knows how much of that had to do with his regression. And it's been a real steep regression. Like, this isn't... He's worse now than he was when he was a rookie. Right? Like, these are multiple steps back. Like, you could probably, if you just went back in time, you grabbed, I don't know, his second to last year at Clemson, and you just stuck him into this Cleveland Browns offense, he would be a much better quarterback than whoever Deshaun Watson is today. And that's my personal feeling on how bad he has become as a quarterback. And now the Cleveland Browns, they got to try to make the playoffs with Dorian Thompson-Robinson and P.J. Walker as their revolving doors of backup quarterbacks. And you know who the Cleveland Browns backup was before this season started? You guys want to take a guess? We just talked about him. He's going to lead the Minnesota Vikings to a playoff
Dobbs.
run.
Yeah, I forgot Dobbs was part of that. Yeah, I forgot he was part of that team.
Yep, Dobbs was the main backup before getting traded from Arizona to Arizona. And now look where you're at, Cleveland. You're nowhere. You're in QB hell right now. And you're going to be. You reap what you sow in this situation, in my opinion. You put all the chips into the most questionable basket available to you. And thankfully for you, I guess, and your fans, you have one of the most elite defenses we have seen in some time.
Yeah, it's
carrying you to victory. Yeah. This defense is carrying them to a 6-3 record.
It feels very similar to the Jets, where it's like, man, it's just too bad that you can't figure out just a modicum of offense, because...
Yeah, it doesn't help that, if they still had Nick Chubb, who knows? Maybe you can build an elite run game. Yeah, you're going to be one-dimensional, but we've seen some one-dimensional teams win their divisions and at least make some noise in the playoffs, Tennessee Titans, for example, when they were heavy on the Derrick Henry train, they managed to make something happen. But there is none of that here in Cleveland, or there in Cleveland. And their schedule is not easy. It's not the hardest schedule in the league, but it's not the easiest one. I'm going to pull it up real quick.
They're in a tough division.
Just so you guys... They are in a tough division. They still have to play
Cincinnati and Pittsburgh.
Yeah, Cincinnati. Although, I get it. And this kind of will bleed into the later portion of my talking points. Pittsburgh is fraudulent. That's not a real team. Their success is fake.
If that's the worst team in your division, like that's a tough division, I think.
This Pittsburgh team gives me a certain vibe that the Minnesota Vikings of last year gave me, which is an insane thing where they're being outgained. They've been outgained in every single game they played.
It's beautiful.
It's very similar to me as the vibe of when the Minnesota Vikings finishing with a scoring margin that was worse.
I don't remember how it ended up. It was close. I think we did end up on the positive side, but only by like a couple of points. I think.
Yeah, I think. Well, I'll have to look up that for some corrections for next episode. But yeah, just looking at the schedule, fellas. Here is the Cleveland Browns' remaining schedule. All right, they got the 6-3 Steelers this week. They have the Broncos, who suddenly are resurgent once again. Russell Wilson is looking like the Russell Wilson of old to some extent. That defense is not as historically bad as they were looking like at one point. You got the Rams that are 3-6, the Jaguars 6-3, and the Jags. You just don't know what you're gonna get from them. You just don't know if that offense is going to show up. You don't know if the play calling is going to be good, and you just don't know if the defense will be able to hold on to a lead. Then you have the 3-7 Bears, the 5-4 Texans. That should be an interesting game, depending upon where the Texans are, because the Texans could be in a position to win their division late in the stretch, so they're gonna give Cleveland as much hell as they can. Then you have the 4 and 5 Jets, which that Jets team could either be checked out or they could be fighting tooth and nail for that 7th seed. It remains to be seen. And then they finished with the Bengals. That's gonna be a tough one, man. Especially if the Bengals are fighting for either the division or a wild card spot. So, with all this said, fellas, I just want to get your thoughts on this situation. Just like a general opinion of what you think is happening here in Cleveland, or to the Cleveland Browns. Patrick, you got any idea? Anything you want to share with this one?
I think they're a cursed franchise, and it's always going to be this way. I don't know what they're going to have to do to break it, but it's not looking like it's going to happen anytime soon. I don't know.
You're going to have to throw Deshaun Watson in.
It's just kind of same old Cleveland Browns, but they're winning a couple more games a year.
Yeah, it's a shame that this is a really talented defense being wasted on.
Yeah, that's kind of what I was saying. Again, like, same with, I feel like the Jets are having, where it's like, I feel bad for those teams, because if they're in the NFC, I probably wouldn't feel bad for them. I would laugh about it, but since they're in the AFC and I don't care about them, I feel bad for those defenses.
Fair. Becky, where do you stand on this?
Well, I mean, look, it's okay to be a little sketchy every now and again, right? So the Browns are just trying to win in the NFL's version of honorable ways, right? If this doesn't go well for them, I think there's a path here. I think there is path. I think there needs to be some back of the house calls. Maybe this one can't even take place over the phone. You know what I mean? Maybe this needs to happen at a famous spot that only certain people would know about, wherever it needs to be.
Like the parking lot of a cheesecake factory.
I don't know. Anywhere could thrive.
I don't know what y'all know about Baker Mayfield's time in Cleveland, but we'll touch on that another time.
If Baker was in charge there, that's fine. Didn't they have an ex-player become their general manager or some shit like that? Either way, doesn't matter.
I know that they said they were going to interview Condoleezza Rice.
Yeah, they did remember that. Damn.
And speaking of Baker Mayfield, imagine this team would be in such a great spot if he was their starting quarterback over Deshaun Watson
absolutely.
right
now. Yeah, about great, but it would be
better than right now.
Better than what they put out this year, yeah.
But hear me out. I'm thinking if there's a handshake agreement that could be made,
I know it's
roster cuts are gonna have to happen. Might need to elevate some guys. Let's guys go. Hey Cooper, it's been fun, brother. I think we're gonna let you go. Hey man, we're gonna let you go. The handshake agreement. All of a sudden on draft night, there's a really strange trade, late round picks. It's in favor of Dallas. No one knows why. It's late round picks. No one cares. That's all I'm saying. I don't know, man.
Listen, if I'm the Cleveland Browns and I'm desperate, like I look at this team and I'm like, I have a genuine playoff contending team that could make a serious run.
Tom Brady.
If there's just yep. I call up Tom Brady. I'm like, what's your price?
No,
what
Tom
is
Brady's
your price?
Not doing that. Don't do it, Tom.
Dude, do you know how much he would love to win a title with the Browns and rub that in Belichick's face? I don't think
it'd even be just a Belichick's thing. I think it'd just be
that's
Browns.
that Belichick has a connection with the Browns.
I don't think he's that petty against Belichick anymore. I think he just wants to be the GOAT.
I don't
think
know
he just
that
wants
he
everyone
is,
to know
but
he's the GOAT.
I think he also would think it's the ultimate troll. I think he'd think it would be funny more than like just to get not to be like a dick, but just to be funny.
I think it'd be hilarious if he came in like next week and I was like, all right, well, you know what? I'm gonna lead this team to the AFC title game.
Turns out he's been in some kind of hyperbolic chamber in space.
No, I think his kids would never talk to him again if he goes to the Cleveland Browns. I think that's the way.
Are we sure that his kids are even talking to him now?
Yeah, no, I think that this whole thing has been about him salvaging what was left of it. Because it's like every time I see Brady now, there's a kid with him.
All right,
I think it's very strategic.
I'm like, listen, kids, I've spent the first 12 weeks of the season with you guys. Listen, if you want, to give me just a little bit of a pass, like give me an 8-week pass, please, to just not be your father. Come on, just for shits and giggles. Just for shits and giggles.
I think Tom has finally decided it's time to be cheesy online guy for fun and still get paid to sponsor shit, like Troy Aikman kind of. Maybe even eventually just like Troy Aikman.
Yeah, I would say if there was ever him coming back, it would be midway through this season is like the last chance he could do it. So he's not going to take a full year off.
Hey man, they were still doing Favre stories 3 years after that fucking head bounced off the cold turf in Minnesota.
That's because he fake retired like 18 times before that. So
yeah, but everyone should have known it was over after that fucking goofy ass game in Gopher Stadium.
Once.
Yeah.
But we all knew it was over. Like there was no question that man couldn't play football again after that shit. But anyway, I digress.
Anyway, so yeah. Cleveland Browns are in a tough spot moving forward. They don't really have a trustworthy QB, not that they had one to begin with, but definitely better than PJ Walker and Dorian Robinson Thompson. So we'll see what happens with. What's up?
I just said you'd think.
Yeah, I think Cooper Rush is better.
He might be, honestly, at this point.
His
but we'll see what. Yeah, probably. We'll see what happens going forward to the Cleveland Browns playoff hopes. But speaking of playoff hopes, let's move on to another team in the AFC who is imploding right before our eyes late into the season. The Buffalo Bills, who just fired their offensive coordinator, Ken Dorsey. Dog, let me tell you all this. They have fired 2 coordinators in 1 calendar year, or within like 12 months, I believe. Steve Wilkes.
Was Ken Dorsey drawing up a throw an interception play? Was he drawing up the turnover play? Is that his fault?
Yeah, he did.
You would think. Did Ken Dorsey dial up?
Do it.
Right? Was Ken Dorsey the one that dialed up 2-0 blitzes at the end of the game and just watch his defense fail miserably? No.
Hey, Ken Dorsey, his old offensive coordinator, Mike McCarthy, I think. I don't actually know that. It just sounds like it sounds right mentally.
I mean, Ken Dorsey was the San Francisco 49ers, so
yeah, it sounds right mentally for that. It sounds close enough mentally, even though McCarthy could have already been gone by that point.
Possibly.
Either way.
Yeah, either way. Talking a little bit more about the Ken Dorsey firing. Listen, there are some numbers that the nerds out there have put out to kind of defend Ken Dorsey's time as the coordinator this season. So I'm just going to give them to you right now, fellas. These are some of the more advanced metrics. The Buffalo Bills offense on a per play basis ranks as such. Number 1 is success rate, which is 48%. Second in third down conversion rate. Third in early down success rate. Third in EPA per play. Fourth in rate of downs converted into a new first down. And fourth in points per minute of possession. And these stats, according to Sharp Football Analysis, are pretty much either comparable or better than they were last season. And so you think, well, if there's all this success, why are they 5-5? Well, because they are turning the ball over at an insane rate. And that is courtesy of their quarterback, Josh Allen, who leads the league in turnovers pretty much every year since 2021. So 2021, 2022, this season.
That's Dak Prescott.
I was going to say, is it ahead of Daniel Jones?
No, it's Dak Prescott.
I think Daniel Jones is in that upper echelon. Although last year Daniel Jones didn't turn over the ball that much.
Okay. I knew there was a couple
but
years,
right now Josh Allen is far and away the clubhouse leader in interceptions and fumbles.
Kirk was on the way after week 3.
So to everybody who likes to pile on Dak Prescott, he is not that bad when it comes to interceptions. But, this is not a Cowboys segment at the moment. It will be a little bit later.
It does have one more tie to the Cowboys. I don't know if y'all saw, though.
Which is?
Trayvon tweeted.
Oh, to free his brother?
Yep. Trayvon might have been tweeting on behalf of his brother.
Trading Stephon Diggs and getting Justin Jefferson back basically was one of the more successful moves my team's ever made.
For real.
It worked out well. It worked out well for everybody, really, and I'm happy.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Oh man. But anyway, back to this right here. Let me see. Oh, here it is. They are turning the ball over on 21% of their drives. That's the worst rate in the NFL. And they also have the worst starting field position of any team. They start the ball at the 24-yard line. So all this coupled with the fact that Josh Allen likes to play hero ball. Whether he likes to play it or not, that's a topic for a different debate. But it is what he's doing, and it's been this way ever since the Buffalo Bills blew a game against the Chiefs with 13 seconds left on the clock. You can just tell this eats away at him. He plays every play like it's the last play of the game, right? Yeah. So
sorry, a little Sean Payton appeared above my head.
Oh.
But yeah, you're looking at this team, and their head coach, I believe, oh my gosh, is it Scott? Oh no, it's Sean. So Sean McDermott, the head coach of the Buffalo Bills, he has now scapegoated his defensive coordinator and his offensive coordinator.
Really.
Yeah. So you're trying to preserve your job as your team continues to either choke away in the playoffs or, as they're doing right now, fumbling hard throughout the regular season. And it's not going to get much easier for the Bills, man. Like, I'm going to look at this. I'm going to pull up their schedule right now. And they have a get-right game against the New York Jets. But here's the thing. There's no guarantee that they can win that game. They already lost to the Jets in overtime to start the year. They've lost to a bad team in the New England Patriots on the road. This is going to be a home game. It could be a cold weather game. I'm not exactly sure what the weather is for this one. But it's not even like the Bills are good at running the ball. They're not really good. Like, they have to rely so heavily on Josh Allen. So you have the New York Jets, who have a tough defense. Then you go to Philadelphia, which could be a tough game. Then you have the bye week. Then you have Kansas City, Dallas, Los Angeles Chargers, or whatever. I mean, they really are. It's really hard to just say, like, they're one way or the other.
They're like the perfect example of the NFL's parody, where they're just like kind of there. They could beat everybody and they could lose to everybody.
Yeah, pretty much. And then you have the New England Patriots, who at this point will probably try to tank for draft positioning. And then you end the year at Miami. And who knows, maybe Miami has a division wrapped up. They don't really care anymore. Or they're trying to fight for the 1 seed in the AFC, in which case, they're gonna send out the dogs. And it's up to you to try to stop them. And the last time that y'all played, you did blow them out, 48-20, and that was the last time. That was the last time that these Buffalo Bills looked like a juggernaut. After that, they have not been able to put up 26 points. If you go on ESPN and you look at points per game, the Buffalo Bills technically average 26 points per game. They have not put up that number since, I believe, week 4 against the Dolphins. So it's a very misleading team when you look at just everything on paper. But then you look at the advanced metrics and you're just like, oh, wow, this team still doesn't make any fucking sense. But then you realize this team does not have any depth on defense. They are dropping like flies. They don't have a legitimate number 2 receiver, so everything has to be funneled to Stephon Diggs. They go out and they get a tight end and try to treat him like a wide receiver. And then they go get running backs and try to treat them like wide receivers to like throw off the defense. You know what'll throw off the defense? Another good wide receiver on the other side of Diggs. And they don't have that. So, Buffalo Bill fans, if you're watching this and you're like, oh man, it's all doom and gloom. Is there anything that this team can do? And the answer is probably not. Maybe stop turning the ball over. You would hope that you regress to, like, there's a regression to the mean when it comes to turnovers. It doesn't look like that's happening for the Buffalo Bills. And they have a super late bye week, so it's not like they can just, get right soon. I think they have one of the latest bye weeks in the league.
Yeah, I think the Vikings
week-
is still like a couple weeks away too, if I remember correctly. It feels late.
Yeah, week 13 is insane.
There was a week,
for
the week before the trade deadline, no one had a bye, and so that kind of made things weird.
Yeah, it made things weird, and like there's a late bye. I don't think helps anybody at this point. Like early buys and late buys are they're rough. And
I mean, it all just kind of depends on where your team's at the time it comes. I guess if you have injuries, you might need. It just kind of depends on where the bye hits.
Yeah. So we'll see what happens with them. But do you guys have anything that you want to say about the Buffalo Bills, Josh Allen, their firing of their coordinators at this point?
Yeah, that felt a little extreme, but I haven't watched enough of them closely to really know what's going on the field. I just kind of figured they'll probably sneak their way in the playoffs, and then they'll be competitive against whoever they play against, because Josh Allen's really good whenever he's really locked in, and so is Stephon Diggs.
Yeah, it's just can they get locked in is the question. Becky?
Baby Favre just forgot the first step in the rules. You got to win that title, and then you get to throw all the picks you want. And send the other picks, but mostly just throwing picks. That's the key, is you win the one, and then you get to do whatever the fuck you want. You know what I mean? You can't do whatever the fuck you want and maybe win the one. That's not how it works.
Yeah.
Josh Allen,
and
come on, bro.
They lost the best chance that they had of winning a Super Bowl was that year they lost to the Chiefs with 13 seconds left, and it's been downhill since then. And then Patrick, just to kind of get back to your point of they'll probably get into the playoffs, I just want you to look at the playoff picture right now in the AFC. I'm going to give this to you guys. In the 1 seed currently is the Kansas City Chiefs at 7-2, the Baltimore Ravens 7-3 at the 2 seed. 3 seed is the Jags, although they could easily lose that to the surging Houston Texans. You have the Miami Dolphins at 6-3, the Pittsburgh Steelers, who are 100% fraudulent, at the 5 seed in 6-3. Cleveland, Houston make up the 6 and 7 seeds respectively. And outside looking in, you have the Cincinnati Bengals. You have the Indianapolis Colts, who that's not real. And then the Buffalo Bills are the 10th seed, so they're going to need a real
they're
good
10, but
late season push.
they're a half game back at 7. They're just they're one loss behind Houston and tied in wins. We just crossed the halfway point, so I mean they're on the outside, but that's also crammed together. I think
you gotta take into account their injuries as well, because nobody's coming back. Nobody important is going to be back, I think, anytime soon.
But I don't know. I really don't trust Houston, Cleveland, Pittsburgh, or Cincinnati right now all that much to say that Buffalo's in trouble yet.
You're a CJ Stroud hater, and we're going to leave it at that. We're not giving you a time to defend yourself. Because we're talking fraud watch, baby. Well, this is your chance to actually talk about
fraud watch.
This is your chance. This is your time to talk about
big up.
Not believing
fraud watch.
Oh, I like that. Fraud watch. All right, now fellas,
license and ready.
I wanted you guys to come up with your own criteria for what feels like a fraud, a fraudulent team, whatever that is. Doesn't matter. It could be anybody. It could be the Chiefs. It could be the Eagles. It could be the Steelers. It could be anybody that you feel. Whatever you're watching, it's just not real. It's just not sustainable, or you just know, like this team, fuck it, they're frauds. Whatever it is, it could be just the vibes. The vibes are fraudulent. So, I'm going to pass this. I'm going to start things off actually, so you guys can get an idea of where my head's at on Fraud Watch. All right, you've heard me mention them already, but it's the Pittsburgh Steelers. This is just not a real sustainable run that they're going on. I know they're 6-3, right? But they have one of the worst offenses I have ever seen. They have no creativity on offense. Matt Canada is terrible at his job. Everybody in Pittsburgh knows it, except Mike Tomlin of all people. And for whatever reason, Mike Tomlin, despite having a team that on paper should not be this good, he always finds a way to find the dogs in his team. and push them further than what they are actually capable of if another coach was there. That's why he's never had a losing record. But you look at this team and like, yeah, they make it into the playoffs. They are getting smoked because they don't have the dogs on offense to keep up with anybody. You got to eventually somebody's going to figure out your defense, because defenses, they're always going to be at a disadvantage now in this era of football to the offense. The NFL wants to see points scored. Yes, points scoring is at a low right now. It wouldn't surprise me if there is a call from Roger Goodell and he's like, I need all the viewers that I can get. I don't want this bullshit ass Pittsburgh Steelers team going any further than wild card weekend. All right, conspiracy theory, call it what you want. There's just no way that this team is real. Kenny Pickett is not a great quarterback. He's not even a good quarterback. He is the most okay mid quarterback you could have. He would be a great backup, and he is just not a good starter. All right.
Not yet.
In his career, he has less touchdowns than CJ Stroud has this season. That is not nothing. That's not a team that I think is legitimate. They are frauds. They will be exposed either to finish the season or in the playoffs. I will pass this on now.
Your screen is mirrored.
Patrick, give me your fraud.
I think that was supposed to be an F, Jacob.
Yeah, it looked like an F to me, and I realized it wasn't going to look like an F to y'all.
My fraud team. I don't believe Carolina's actually this bad. No, I'm just kidding. Honestly, I think my team's a fraudulent team. I don't think that. I think we're gonna get into the playoffs and it's gonna be bad. Like last year was bad. We won't lose to the Giants again because they're not gonna make the playoffs. But
I feel like Minnesota's more legitimate this year than they were last year.
The defense.
Their defense is a lot better.
Still skeptical. Still, I don't know. I don't trust that defense against good offenses in any kind of real situation.
I think Kevin O'Connell's actually a good coach too.
I think he is. I think he's great. I think we're gonna be good in a year or two maybe. But I don't know. I don't think this team's it either. But you know, that's me. If I had to pick another fraudulent team just for fun that I'm not gonna explain for any reason, I'm going to say Jacksonville. And I don't think it needs too much explanation. I think they're just missing some experience still. But they're fun to watch when they're on.
Sunshine.
When they're on, and that's the problem, is when they're on. And I don't hate that pick actually for Jacksonville. They've been, I know they're 6-3, but they've been disappointing 6-3. Because you look at their performance against the 49ers and they couldn't do anything. You know, we hyped up Trevor Lawrence. I hyped up Trevor Lawrence going into this season as an MVP candidate. You know, he's year 3. He was year 2 with Doug Peterson. And everything has just not been great. I don't know if they know how to use Calvin Ridley correctly. And I don't know if Press Taylor, their offensive coordinator, who was a former coordinator in Philadelphia, he has no idea how to sequence plays. I'm sure he understands NFL offense. He is an offensive coordinator, but I don't think he knows how to string plays together in a way that makes sense for winning football games. So yeah, I kind of see where you're at on that one. Yeah. How about you, Bethke? Who's on your fraud watch?
Well, we get to make our own criteria, and that's really the most important part of this, right? So for me, it's always, you guys expressed excellent football points, right? Like, I agree with Pittsburgh because I saw a meme today. Not because I saw the meme, but the meme is just a great representation of what you saw. It was one of the mini games in Mario Party where you all have to like be on a ball and everyone falls off and whoever's last wins, right? And in this video, the player is Luigi and everyone else just kind of rolls off and Luigi doesn't even move and he wins. That was the description of the Pittsburgh Steelers this season. So I just wanted to say, excellent call. That works. Minnesota, not a fraud. They are who we thought they were. They're mid. They're a big fucking thing of mid. They were kind of shitty for a second, had a weird fumble thing. Now they've returned to mid. Now they're right in that mid zone that they should be, right? I can't do that thing and then say the Cowboys are frauds because the Cowboys are like grandfathered into fraudulence. We can't possibly be frauds because no one believes in it. So then, you know, I think that leads me to take the fan side of things and say, who would it make me the happiest to see be a fraud? Well, that's very easy. The Philadelphia Eagles, my frauds. Why? I don't know. Somebody will fuck it up for me, I think. I feel good about that. I feel like you get that much bad karma in the world and you get that kind of Super Bowl you get. I don't know. It just makes me wonder. But even if they do end up winning the Super Bowl, I still will always root for them to be the frauds. Therefore, they are my frauds.
Ooh, the music hit perfectly too.
That was perfect. That was perfect. I can't even I can't even follow up to what he just said because of that music drop. It was so great. But I will. It was a walk off. All right. You know what? We're gonna respect the timing of that. Thank you, gentlemen, for presenting your teams, your cases for Fraud Watch. We're going to do another Fraud Watch at the end of the year. I thought this would be a perfect time since it's kind of the midway point. So we'll do a Fraud Watch entering the playoffs once we know who is all in. And we'll see who is a fraudulent team in the playoffs and who is the real deal, Holyfield. But now, let's get on to it, fellas. To everybody's favorite segment, watch it, skip it, train wreck. Do you have anything for train wreck? Any vocal effects?
I kind of forgot. I kind of forgot to do something for that.
Skip it.
Train wreck.
Okay, that's what we're
Love
going
that.
with today.
That was
All right, that's what we're doing today.
What's gonna be
Okay.
really funny is if for some
Now-
reason those don't get recorded and it's just me and my normal voice saying all that, but we'll see.
We'll see. Alrighty, so I got a couple of games here to present to you guys for the Watch It so we can give our audience the right call on what game they should watch that isn't their own. So, the first one that I got here, I think this is just going to be a fun matchup. Just all in all, you have two resurgent teams that are on a winning streak. You have two pretty smart quarterbacks, mobile. You just don't know what's going to happen with their defenses. You could have a shootout, you could have a low-scoring affair, and it comes down to some key plays at the end. You're going to get the Vikings at the Broncos as one of my candidates for the must-watch. I think Josh Dobbs right now is must-watch TV. The way that he's been playing these last two games, yeah, I just got to see where it goes.
Yeah,
I just got to see where it goes. Like,
sure.
Is this guy legit? Is this guy just kind of a product of the moment? Is this kind of like a insanity deal where he's just going nuclear and eventually he's going to cool off and eventually he's just going to be like, all right, this guy's just kind of what he is. He's an average player in the league. Who knows, right? I'm personally rooting for the guy.
Run. I just need one run. Come on.
He's on one. He's on one right now, man. He's on one right now. And the Broncos, there, hey, man, they had a wild game against the Bills. They are, I don't know, they could find themselves fighting for the 7th seed. Who knows? That AFC West is not very strong outside of Kansas City. So there's two teams with a lot to play for, even though in the standings, out of conference games really don't have a lot of weight to them.
Yep.
Next game, Browns Steelers. I know it's calling the Steelers fraudulent, and I know that I'm maybe kind of writing the obituary of the Browns, but this is two tough teams with tough defenses. If you want some ugly, old-school AFC North football, this might just be the one. Last week we had the Browns and the Ravens in that same category of like, oh, this could be an ugly game. And what do you have? One of the better games of last week. Finally, a 33-31 ending of that game in favor of the Cleveland Browns. Guys, I finally had a pick that wasn't jinxed. That was actually worth watching. So maybe, just maybe, this can also be it. And then the last candidate that I have for you guys, as we had on the screen earlier, it is the Monday Night Football game, Philadelphia Eagles at the Kansas City Chiefs. Bethke, you shared a really great tweet in one of the group chats where it's the fake pessimism bowl. And I'm like, you know what? It's true. It's some pretty fake pessimism, because when you think about it, both teams, first place in their conferences. Are there things that can be worked on for both teams? Yes. On the Eagles side, it's that defense. That defense is really shaky. On the Kansas City Chiefs side, it is, weirdly enough, their offense. Their offense has not been very good. They don't have anything outside of Travis Kelce and Patrick Mahomes, which you would think, oh, that's all you need. No. When everybody's bracketing Travis Kelce, who does Patrick Mahomes go to? You would think, well, it's Patrick Mahomes. He can just throw somebody open. Too bad those guys can't get open and they can't catch a fucking cold. So, if you are a fan of the other team, you probably don't feel great about your first place team, which is weird, and you shouldn't be. Stop being weird. Don't do that. Enjoy the moment. All right. You've gone through some dog shit years before. Don't get spoiled. But anyway, this is a rematch of the Super Bowl, which is a really good Super Bowl. These are two teams that have talented QBs. They have some talented players all over the field. It is, the only game on a Monday, of course. So there's some real potential for fireworks, but again, it doesn't have any real meaning in the standings. So as cool of a game as it might be, there is always the counter argument of like, yeah, they lost, but it doesn't matter at the end of the day in their standings.
Yeah,
so,
this is kind of
with
like
that said,
it's kind of like an exhibition game. It's cool. It's like a litmus test and all that. Just kind
It
of
is a litmus test,
check in, see where you're at, and then move on.
Yeah. And weirdly enough, both teams are coming off a bye. Andy Reid famously really good after a bye.
That had to have been
20
intentional, right?
Yeah, it had to have been. So he's 20-3 after a bye, but I mean, they are coming back from a game from Germany. So I guess it would make sense to just
they have to have a bye.
Stick a bye after that.
I think it's
stick
I think
a game.
I think everyone does, unless you're the Jags and you're playing there 2 weeks in a row or whatever.
Yeah. Plus, the Jags are London's team, so they can scream Duval all if they want, but they really need to scream out Heathrow. But yeah, gentlemen, these are the 3 games that I'm presenting to you as your must-watch game of the week. What are you picking and why? Let's go, Patrick.
I myself would probably have to say that you should watch Minnesota at Denver, because that's the game the Vikings are playing. I don't have a whole lot for you. That's the only one I'm really. I mean,
you could have just said just Dubs.
Yeah, I think the Eagles Chiefs game is gonna be fun. I'd probably actually pick that one if I'm being serious.
All right.
I mean, obviously it's the two. I don't know the 2 best teams, but the best teams from each conference at least right now.
Yeah, record-wise for sure. Bethke, who do you got?
Well, there's an important breakdown you didn't mention about Philly, Kansas City. We have breaking news today. Breaking news today in that game.
Oh.
This will be the first time that the Kelceys and the Swifts get together. And for that reason, I'm picking Browns Steelers. I'd rather watch that bullshit than a bunch of fucking Taylor Swift content.
I blocked out of my mind the whole, the Eagles have a Swift and a Kelce, and the Chiefs have a Swift and a Kelce, out of my mind. And then you just had to drag it back out. You just had to pull it out.
Oh, no. I'm talking about, like, parents and shit, too. Yeah, there was a real news story about not only DeAndre Swift. I know the player.
Caesar's presenting you the. Did you know what Lincoln's secretary or whatever his name was? It's Kennedy. What was Kennedy's name? Lincoln. It's like almost numerology. It's like poetry. It rhymes. George Lucas.
Like Donald Reagan. How Donald Reagan was on Ronald Reagan's staff.
That's a good one.
That's like
yes, that's a really good one actually. But yeah, Well,
That's our must-watch
anyway,
games of the week.
yeah, I'm not looking for. Well, I haven't made a selection yet.
I mean,
so,
that's me and Bethke's
with me
most-watched games of the week. What do you think, Caesar?
Yeah.
If you think I'm picking Eagles Chiefs, you're wrong. I'm gonna hate watch the shit out of Cleveland Pittsburgh.
Hell yeah. Drinking game. Drink every time there's a turnover. And a sack. And a sack. Turnover and a sack.
And a sack, turnover, sack. How about this? Runs that go for
Is that
less than 2 yards.
What time is that game?
I believe it's a noon game, if I'm not mistaken.
Can't.
Let me.
If you're not
play
an
it.
NFL
Let me
fan,
double
then,
check.
you know what I mean? Come on.
Yeah, let's see.
Actually, I guess I would rather it be the noon game now that I'm thinking about it.
It is, yeah, it is the noon game. So if you want
Alright.
to do some early day
Let's
drinking,
get loaded.
make a game, a drinking game out of this game. You absolutely should. You can make your own rules, but if you were to follow my rules, it is based off what Matthew said. Anytime there's a sack, a turnover, or take a drink anytime there is a run that goes for less than 2 yards.
Oh God. Be dead by the second quarter.
Yep.
Hey man, it's the only way that you can get through this slog of a matchup that's in the must-watch category. Now, let's move on to the skip it. All right. In this game, or in this part, I've suggested
Skip it.
2 teams. This has to be 2 of the only options that I could really come up with. The New York Giants against the Washington Commanders. Why do you want to watch either team? All right. Both have losing records. Washington's going to win this game. There's just
because I want to watch the
unless
best
they're down
quarterback
to
in
their
the
men-
NFL, Sam Howell.
yeah. What's up?
I said because I want to watch the best quarterback in the NFL, the most yards, Sam Howell.
Yeah, sure. If that's what you want to do. If you want to trick yourself into thinking...
Well, they'll probably get to keep
Washington
that
fans,
record padded
if you want to
up.
trick yourself into thinking Sam Howell is the guy, he's not. But if you want to think he
He's
is,
number
this
one in
game
yards.
against the Giants is going to make you believe. Because they got rid of their 2 best pass rushers, right? For chump change. I guess the second round pick from Chicago is pretty valuable. But either way, like you got rid of Chase Young for chump change. No Montez Sweat. Yeah, thankfully you're facing Tommy DeVito. Tommy fucking DeVito, the Italian stallion. There's just no entertainment value in what's going to surely be a blowout. And if it's not Washington, just go ahead and fire Ron Rivera. Just do it. Do yourself a favor. He is not a good head coach. He's just not a good coach. He has 2 winning seasons in his time as a coach and head coach. They call him Riverboat Ron, and he's one of the most conservative coaches in the league.
Yeah, I
Great
never
guy,
really understood that
great
nickname
story.
at all.
It just
Listen.
rhymes. And he did
Yeah.
something crazy a couple
Did he
times.
like once went on 4th down?
Yeah.
Oh,
One time
Riverboat
from his own. Yeah, remember Riverboat Ron when he went 4th and 2 in his own territory? Anyway, yeah. Despite the fact that Ron Rivera gave us one of the best moments in our podcast history during Head Coach Fight Club, with Patrick being flabbergasted. No, wait, Matthew, were you
Jacob
flabbergasted? One of you was flabbergasted that he
Jacob
won.
didn't understand that a guy with cancer could win a fight.
Could win.
Because Jacob
Well, you, that
believed
was
in the
you
human
guys
spirit.
wanted to be logical about it, and then you were like, "Yes, someone who's put chemo in their body could win a fight," and I was like, "Huh?" And then you expected me to uphold that logic forever, and then I didn't, and that's why.
Hey, listen, we did wilder shit
He
with other
put
fights. but
radiation
that
in
was,
his bones, and you were like, "No, they'll stand up."
listen, we
He's
had to
still-
set the
He's the
tone
Hulk
for
now.
what we had to set the tone for what was the rest of the tournament, and it was great. I don't regret the decision one bit. I'll stand by
In
it for the rest of my
retrospect,
life.
it was the right choice. I agree.
Yes. But yeah,
You beat
and then the next
cancer,
game.
you can beat Mike McCarthy.
You
I
have-
think the facts are facts there, and I don't think we need to apologize for any of that.
Exactly. The next teams should apologize because they're just, I don't know, they're just not that exciting to watch, or they haven't been lately. The Jags against the Titans. What are we doing here? Like, this is just it's a divisional game. The Jags should absolutely win this game. There's no reason they should let the Titans in close, especially not with a rookie QB on the other side of the field. I don't know. It's just AFC matchups aren't that sexy, or AFC South matchups aren't that sexy, and so I just thought, you know what, fuck it. This has got to be on the list of games that you could skip. There's nothing else on.
For sure.
But yeah, with that said, gentlemen, these are my two options for you guys. I'm picking New York versus Washington because they are disgrace to the division that was once last year's NFC Beast. Now, NFC Mid.
That's my NFC East champ predicted Giants right there. You're talking about.
Yeah, that aged like milk. That aged like milk in the Texas sun.
Not my finest pick.
I think we need to revisit our picks to see where we're at, but
yeah,
we'll do
I've
that
got 'em.
at the end of the year.
I
So
could
what are
do
you
a
picking?
I'll do a mid-season report on that next week. So between the two you picked, I'm probably gonna be skipping the Jags Titans game. But I would honestly say the game that I would most likely skip is Cowboys Panthers, because there's nothing unless you're a Cowboys fan, there's no reason to watch. There's no reason for anyone to watch that game.
I thought about putting that, but you never know. I don't know.
I mean, that could be true of any game, but I'm just saying.
So really, he's saying he's throwing shade at the Cowboys by not picking.
A little
I don't
bit.
think
I mean,
so.
could
I'm just
they
saying, like,
possibly
He's not.
come up with another stinker?
Oh, he
Maybe,
is.
but doubt it.
Yeah,
But the possibility is there. You know, the possibility is there. So if you want to hate watch the Cowboys, then it's not going to be a must.
Yeah, and I guess there are people who want to do that every week. I'm just not in that camp, and I think this is going to be
Stephen A. Smith specifically.
not a cool game.
Yeah.
Not a cool game for anybody not wearing cowboy gear.
I can assure you, Stephen A. Smith has not missed a Cowboys game in 20 years,
Yeah, definitely.
and he watches it with a hate boner every time.
He had Emmitt Smith jerseys back in the day before he declared he was an Eagles fan, just like a lot of Eagles fans.
Which is weird because wasn't he from New York? Like, shouldn't he be a Giants fan? Like, I know he was at the Philadelphia Inquirer for a long time, but he's from New York, is he not?
Yeah,
I don't know anything about him.
Yeah,
they're
so,
not
like,
that
he
far in
should-
distance in reality.
Yeah, like he should, in theory, at least root for like the Giants, the Jets. I know he roots for the Knicks. I know he's tired of the Knicks sucking.
It does
I never really.
Stephen A. Smith isn't a real person. He just makes up the most popular.
Yeah,
he just
I mean,
kind of bandwagons the most popular sellable things and sticks to the same beating drum.
I don't take anything he says on TV very seriously.
Yeah, I'm definitely going Giants commies as the skip it. As someone who actually did skip it in his own game last week, I watched the highlights after the fact, but it was a beautiful day. We were big cruising around LA. I was like, shit, I'm not about to be watching this dumbass game. I'm like, let me monitor it. Okay, this is kind of slow start. What's happening? Check back. It's a blowout. I'm like, good. Dumbasses aren't going to make me have to worry about this. And then I
Not even a
rewatched
little
it
bit.
later that night, having dinner. I kind of sped through it quickly. I didn't love it for some of the things, but we're not going to get into that just yet. The other thing is, you're talking about a whole like giant audience that's going to tune in for Tennessee Jacksonville. That's basically for the rights to be the next Barstool fanboy quarterback, bro. Levis versus Lawrence. Oh my God!
All right,
Barstool
Levis versus
Sports
Lawrence.
is having a big week this week, bro. Come on.
I feel like Levis is gonna be their guy. They're just gonna gravitate to it. Look at him. He looks like a corn-fed fella from the
He
south.
looks like somebody Tennessee's gonna like, even if he sucks, like Tannehill.
Yeah, 100%.
I agree.
I guess Trevor Lawrence. I think Trevor Lawrence is too.
Yeah, I wish I had
He
saved.
looks too much like sunshine for them. You know.
I wish I
It's
had
like
ways
too
to save
California
tape
pretty boy.
on all the people I heard told me Tannehill in Tennessee was gonna go places.
I mean, it
He
looked
went
like it for a
places.
second.
He kind of went places.
The AFC title game.
Garbage.
No, that's nothing to sneeze
I
at.
will give Ryan Tannehill credit. He really churned out a hell of a payday and career for somebody
Yeah,
who
he
was
had a
like,
hell of a 6.5 games.
it was
Hey,
crazy.
man,
I'm
he
not
made the
gonna lie.
most of it.
That's,
Listen,
but anyway, good for him.
He resurrected his career in Tennessee. It was a good little run, and now it's over. So, it is what it is. He's Atlanta's next failed project at quarterback next season, I think.
Like, hey, do you want to get a couple $1 million to hand the ball to Derrick Henry? And you're like, Yes,
Are-
yes, please, yes.
Are we gonna mention that he last year said he refused to help Malik Davis? I believe it's Malik Davis.
Did
Was
he?
the
Malik
backup,
Willis.
right? Malik Willis.
I didn't know. I
And
didn't know
then-
he
Yeah.
said that.
I think we talked about it
And then he
briefly
did
last week,
say,
did we not?
and then he did say he would be happy to mentor Will Levis. So
Yeah,
hmm,
I don't remember if
Hmm.
it was.
hmm,
Did we not talk about it last week where we were like, yeah, that's
hmm,
sketchy, and then I don't
Hmm.
remember. Well, maybe I think of something else. But yeah, that was sketchy from Ryan Tannehill.
Maybe Ryan
say
Tannehill
that.
is exactly what Tennessee needs. Let's move on before we get in trouble.
All right, let's move on. Train wreck time, baby. All right, these two games right here, I just can't think of more train wreck franchises at the moment that are playing against each other. We have the Buffalo Bills, who continue to implode, 5-5, going up against the New York Jets, still led by Zach Wilson for whatever fucking reason. Something's got to give in this game. This is gonna be one of those games, fellas, where you're just watching each quarterback throw as many interceptions as they possibly can. One, because the guy thinks he can win the game, and the other one, because he just doesn't know any better. I'll let you decide which description fits which quarterback, because honestly, it could go either way. And then the Chargers and Packers. All right, the Chargers, they are one bad game away from spiraling out of control, and yet they managed to kind of toe the line. And then the Packers. Look how the mighty have fallen. Not that they were all that mighty, but you know, they were looking really good under Matt LaFleur for those first 3 years. And they just can't catch a break this season. Jordan Love, like, this is your 1 year to audition as a QB, as a starting QB, and you may not get a chance to see another year. So we'll see. He is fighting for his the longevity of his starting career against the Chargers, who, man, they're just bad. They're just bad. Like, that defense sucks. They have a bunch of big names. Yeah, they have Justin Herbert, who, like, I don't know. How many more fantasies can the Justin Herbert fan base come up with? We're like, oh, if he was on this team, he would do this. Or if he had these guys to work with, he would be doing that.
They call him Hypothetical Man online.
Yeah, so hypothetically, this game is going to be a train wreck. How about that, Justin Herbert fans? I'm going to give you my pick. I think the Bills and Jets are going to be the biggest train wreck on the slate this season, or this week. I expect to see no less than 6 total interceptions thrown in this game. Maybe 2 fumbles from the quarterbacks. So a total of 8 turnovers in this game. I don't know if there's a bet, if there's a parlay out there that has that, but if there is, take it. A lot of turnovers. Take the over on the turnovers. Becky, what do you think? Where are you at?
My pick personally is Bills and the Jets. I think I'm more interested to see, but I think it's kind of probably end up going to be boring, where you just have the Jets or the Bills just sort of bounce back and start to look good again, and then they'll look bad again, and they'll look good again. And it probably won't matter because then they'll be serious in the playoffs, and then all of this will be for nothing.
If they get there. I don't think there's guarantee they get to the playoffs.
I think they'll be all right. I think they might just bubble fuck their way in. Yeah, that's my call for sure. Only reason I'd watch the Packers is to continue to watch them lose. I think outside of the Eagles, there's no fan base I enjoyed watching to lose more, because it's like Eagles fans are just their own thing. But Packers fans are basically like America's team, but not America's team. They're like rural America's team.
They're like
every
actual
hillbilly.
America's team. Or like
every
actual America, the heartland.
The silent majority's team.
Yeah,
you know what I mean? And like they just really suck when they're good. So like it's a big special fuck them. And they had all those years of good quarterback play. Yeah, so I'd only be hate watching that game.
It's a shame. Of your two, I would definitely say that I think Chargers-Packers is more likely to be an actual train wreck. 'Cause I do think the Bills will have a good game. But if I had to pick one outside of your two, I think Bears-Lions could also, in 2 ways, be a train wreck. In that either the Lions just play like crap because it's a division game, or the Lions win by like 50, and that's a train wreck in my opinion.
seeing 7-2 next to Detroit still feels surreal. I don't give a fuck.
Yeah. Like I said,
I
we're
think
halfway
it's as
through
real
the
as it
season.
gets
I
with
don't,
them.
I don't believe it yet, but until they start losing, I can't say anything against it. So.
Yeah. Now they'll only have one opportunity. Speaking of the Lions, to really make the doubters a believer on their schedule, and outside of their division.
Two of the last 3 against Minnesota could be.
It's the Dallas Cowboys. Yeah, it's that Week 17 matchup against the Dallas Cowboys. That could actually matter for seeding purposes. So, it's their toughest test of their season. Honestly, looking at everybody else that they play.
That's sandwiched by 2 Vikings games, right?
Yeah, and I'm sure one of those Vikings games might be meaningless if.
Well, I'm just saying.
The last one might be meaningless if they.
Yeah, so basically, like, if something really bad happens, if the Lions have a real bad collapse, they could go from first place in the division to out of the playoffs in those 3 weeks if they fuck around. So still a lot to play for.
It's gonna be hard to fuck around, dog. They got 2 Chicago Bear games.
And those,
they have a Green Bay game.
And they have 2 Bear games. You say that part.
Those last 3 weeks could all of a sudden
you can't
throttle what they did.
You can't convince me this team is going to fall apart. I believe in Dan Campbell now. That team just believes in him. I think they just got everything
into
going.
The playoffs, I would say. Yeah, I think that they're at least a playoff team. But I could see the Vikings overtaking for the division. And
I could see the Detroit Lions falling apart in the playoffs, but not right now.
The ultimate Lions thing to do is to go into that last 3 weeks in a spot where they just only have to win one of those games and lose all 3 of them, and somehow might fall out or something.
They don't deserve
There's
that.
just no way.
It's just give them one of those goofy ass seasons.
The NFC is just not strong enough for them to.
I've been watching the Lions my entire life, so.
Yeah, but these are not the same Lions you've been watching.
Yeah, they deserve one game. They deserve one season at least.
I've heard it all before.
Just so you get an idea of where the playoff standings are at. Let's just say they fuck around, right? They just fuck around. They go 12-5. If they lose those 3 games, right? Because I don't think they're losing to the Saints. I don't think they're losing until they get to Minnesota. So if we're just going off of that, there's no way they're missing the playoffs at 12-5. Because look at the 7th seed is the Minnesota Vikings at 6-4. You want to know what the 8th seed's record is? It's Tampa Bay Buccaneers at 4-5. The Washington Commanders at 4-6. One team is making it out of the NFC South. There's not going to be 2 teams. Detroit, there's just no way they fall out of the playoffs unless they somehow lose every single game the rest of the way, which I just can't see them doing unless Jared Goff gets hurt. And then so we'll see what happens with the seeding with the Detroit Lions. Honestly, the way that I see it right now, they probably finish as the 3 seed. San Francisco looks like they're coming back to earth, and I just don't know if San Francisco is going to be taking off this warpath if their game against Jacksonville has any merit to what they will be for the rest of the year. But with that said, gentlemen, let's talk about our teams one more time. We're previewing Week 11. We're finishing things out. Let's start off Cowboys-Panthers. This game, let's be real, this should be a blowout. This should absolutely be a blowout. The Panthers have very little to hang their head on. It looks like they made the wrong decision with Bryce Young. He is, by all intents and purposes, the guy who should have gone number 2.
And didn't they?
The way you looked at it.
Didn't they give up next year's first-round pick to get him?
Yeah, they gave up a king's ransom to go get him. Where, look at it, if they had just stuck around with Andy Dalton another year, they probably would still have a 1-8 record, and they could be looking at Drake May, they could be looking at Caleb Williams. Hell, all they had to do was take C.J. Stroud. All they had to do was take C.J. Stroud, because I look at this Panthers offense on paper going into the season, and I didn't think that Houston's skill position players were that much better than what Carolina has, right? Like on paper, are you like Adam Thielen should be better than Nico Collins and Tank Dell and whoever else Houston has?
I don't know.
On paper, right?
Old.
And that offensive line for Houston wasn't great. Neither is Carolina. But look at it. It's just working in Houston. It is absolutely working in Houston. CJ Stroud should have been the number 1 overall pick. I think anybody in that building in Carolina would probably, like, off the record say, yeah, we should have taken Bryce Stroud. This guy is too small for this team. Maybe he works in another franchise, in another system, in another environment, more conducive to his skill set. The Panthers, they aren't it. And then you look at Dallas Cowboys. Like we said earlier, they beat up on bad teams. They may have a slip up here and there. I don't see them having another slip up. The possibility isn't 0%, but it's not 1%, if that makes any sense. This should be a game where the Cowboys continue to build on what they did against the Giants. I see a lot of CeeDee Lamb. I wouldn't be surprised if the guy goes for like 150, 2 touchdowns, and continues to cement himself in the ongoing conversation of best receivers in the league. Micah Parsons probably going to absolutely destroy Bryce Young. There's just really not a lot of intrigue and interest in this game, really. This should definitely be a game where the Cowboys win by at least 2 touchdowns. I think this game goes 28-7. Fellas?
They better fucking win. That's the only analysis you get.
Yeah,
that's all the analysis we need.
Luckily, it's not college football. It doesn't matter how. You just have to check it off. Get the win. Get the win and get out of there. You should win by a lot, but even if you don't, just get the win and get out of there.
Yeah, honestly, I don't know if I want to watch Cooper Rush play anymore either, so I don't know if it would hurt my feelings.
What about what's his
name?
No. Where's what's his name?
They can't.
Trey Lance.
They can't let Lance play. He's not allowed to play because of the rules.
Trey Lance?
It's emergency only. Yeah, he's an emergency only whenever they put him on. They have to change the roster.
Wait, but that's only if he's listed. But here's the thing:
he's listed as but then they have to move
him in.
But they have to move someone else down from the roster, I believe.
Yeah.
They would have. Oh, that's weird.
That would be really stupid. As much as I like to do fuckboy shit, it would be really stupid to give up a roster spot just to maybe play your backup quarterback.
Would it really, against Carolina, be a big deal to get rid of one of your gunners? I mean, come on.
Yeah, I do think that would probably not be. But if you lose that game, it is because you try to get your backup quarterback some minutes in a blowout you were predicting. No, get the fuck out of here.
That would be funny. That would be hilarious.
Y'all just want ESPN to ruin my week.
They're gonna ruin your week regardless.
No, bring that stupid ass Cooper Rush in if it's gonna be a blowout. But honestly, I'd rather just watch a decent game.
There you go. All right, let's move on to the next game. Vikings at Broncos. This is gonna be, I think, a really entertaining game. Again, we can't talk about Josh Dobbs enough of everything that he's been doing. The Broncos, they're getting their act together at what might feel like the perfect time. So in this game, I don't believe that Justin Jefferson is available to come back, if I'm not mistaken. Is that right, Patrick?
I think so. But I haven't been keeping up.
He's eligible to come off IR.
That would make sense. It's about time.
Yeah, so in this game, TJ Hawkinson is listed as questionable. Justin Jefferson still on injured reserve, so it is Wednesday as the time of recording.
I think they have until Saturday at 4 is when that final injury that injury report is going to be listed. So we'll see. Alexander Madison is also questionable for this game. With that said, we don't run the ball anyways. So.
Yeah, they're going to try to run the ball anyways. And now that you have a mobile quarterback who can add to your running game,
what running game?
It's going to be a really dangerous. It's going to be really dangerous for the Denver Broncos facing against this Minnesota Vikings offense. This Broncos offense, I wouldn't say has been like anything special, but they just seem to get enough points. Just enough points. Russell Wilson is doing just enough to be able to win games, and it'll be interesting to see Sean Payton lose yet another important game to the Minnesota Vikings. So I think this is going to be a close game. There's no way that it's not, in my opinion. I don't see either team blowing the other one out. I think this is going to be a game where we see like what 28-24 in the favor of the Minnesota Vikings, who continue to roll in their pursuit of of trying to catch the Detroit Lions in the division and a favorable playoff spot. Bethke, what do you think about this game? How do you think it's going to turn out?
Yeah, I turned my head and looked, and the fucking Broncos got decent again. So fuck that bullshit. I need them to get that shit together.
Should have mentioned them in the fraud talk earlier.
I mean, even still, I didn't realize that they had. By the time I turn around, these fuckers are winning games, and now I'm like, what the fuck is this record? Like, I want this record to be worse.
They've got Vegas and
right?
No, the best thing they can do is keep Peyton and Wilson for a while. But I mean, they've got Oakland or Vegas or whoever and San Diego / LA in their division, so they're gonna win some games.
And they still have New England on the schedule.
Oh god, not again.
Yeah. Are you still there for us, Patrick?
What? I didn't lose anything.
What's up? Okay.
Sorry.
Oh, yeah, because you just said, "Oh no, not again." So
like, no, the same song was about to play for a third time in the bed, so I had to kill it.
Gotcha. All right, so sounds like Bethke, you got the Vikings, or you're hoping for the Vikings in this case. Perfect. And then
he gave a thumbs up to the audio listeners. I'll go quick. I'm gonna give a fun score. Let me see if this is a score-gami before I give it. This song is hilarious.
Oh god.
Has this ever happened? I'm gonna say Vikings 24-22, but now I want to see if it's ever actually happened before.
It feels doable.
I feel like that's a score.
Yeah, it's happened before. Oh well. 24-22.
We're getting to the point of NFL history where there's not a lot of score-gamis left.
There'd be.
Really?
That's just because of how bizarre the scoring system is. Because you can get a 1, you can get 2, you can get 3, you can get 6. So.
Wait. How do you get 1 point in an NFL game? Like just
extra
a singular point outside of the extra point?
No, I just mean like in general, like how in ways you can score.
Okay.
There's an opportunity for 1, 2, 3, and 6. So
yeah. Word. All right. Well,
Ooh, that.
Here we go. Looks like we're all in agreement so far of who should be winning the game. Now let's get into it. We got the Philadelphia Eagles at the Kansas City Chiefs. This is going to be a interesting game. Should be two quality teams facing up against each other. It's really hard, for me at least, as a fan of the Eagles, to try to predict where I think this game goes. Simply because I don't trust the defense, and I also don't know who's on the injury report. If you remember that Eagles-Cowboys game, you had Eagles players falling like flies. They managed to get up and try to finish the game. But you just never know, like, once the adrenaline wears off, where they are. If those injuries get worse throughout the bye week and heading into this week. They did lose the linebacker, Nakobe Dean, with a foot injury, so that is an issue. And yeah, there's just been a lot of issues with this Eagles offense, particularly in the red zone, particularly at the right guard spot where they've been rotating Tyler Steen and Sua Opeta while Cam Jorgens has been out of action with an injury. And because of that, they haven't been able to run the ball well in about 4 weeks. So this Chiefs defense is elite right now. I believe they are top 5 in total defensive rankings, which is an insane number considering this an era of Chiefs football. You think, okay, they've had an elite offense and a middle-of-the-road defense. Now it's flipped. Middle-of-the-road offense, elite defense. Something's got to give in this game. Honestly, as much as I would love to see the Eagles get a win and, I don't know, make me feel somewhat better about that Super Bowl loss, it's not going to happen, but I just don't see how the Chiefs lose coming off a bye with Andy Reid. He's just the master of the bye week. There's just no way that Travis Kelce doesn't go up for a gigantic game against a safety core and a linebacking core that just has not been able to cover tight ends all year long. I think the Chiefs win This one, 31-24. We'll pass it on to Patrick because I want to hear Bethke's prediction at the end. Finish things off.
It's funny because your camera's mirrored, so you just pointed the wrong way, but don't worry about it.
You did too earlier because you tried to point to
I
Caesar
did.
and you did it the opposite
Yeah.
way, so
I
we're
know.
all in it together.
What was I gonna say? Oh, the final score of the Eagles-Chiefs game. I think it's gonna be pretty high scoring, if I'm being totally honest with you. I think we're gonna see something like 37-34, and I'll go ahead and take the Eagles to win.
Oh, all right, Bethke, finish us off. What do you think?
Well,
Where's
it's
this game go?
important. It's very important to start every bit of analysis when you're talking about the Philadelphia Eagles with "fuck the Eagles" and the clickbait claim. It's also important to note that, I think that there's revenge games. There's stuff that means more to certain teams, especially if they are fraudulent. Regular season football is just that. So I think it's fly Eagles fly on Monday Night Football, 41-7.
Oh my God! All right.
Okay, the score. Okay, I'm lying on the score. The score is not going to be an ass whooping, but I do feel like I favor the Eagles, not just to continue my hopes in them being one of the greatest frauds of all time, but because I legitimately think that they'll be more geared up to go steal that one in Arrowhead. I think maybe the Taylor Swift chaos gets a little too much for Kansas City. Maybe now the fans are like, "Fuck that bitch! Don't ever let her in our fucking stadium again."
Which is funny
That's not me,
because
Swifties. I didn't say that.
Which is funny
that's
because,
hypothetically the Kansas City fans.
Swifties could be at war with Eagles fans, which is not a war that they'll win, because it's just
Well, it
a bunch of
depends. If it's on the
degenerates.
internet, they will. If it's in real life, they won't.
Yeah. Well, and it's funny too because Taylor Swift is a self-proclaimed Eagles fan, so I wouldn't be surprised if she wears one of those dumb half jerseys, where it's like Travis's Kelsey jersey and then the other Kelsey jersey.
If
It'd
she
be like,
does that,
"See?"
I guarantee you, Kansas City fans are going to show you why they're in the Midwest. You know what I mean?
I
She's
don't know
gonna
what that
find out.
means, but okay.
She's going to find out what Midwestern hospitality is.
It sounds like a threat
That-
because of the
Is
implication.
it all
Because of the
sweet? Is
implication.
it all sweet? Is it just corn and sweet people up there? I don't think so. I think that's a facade.
All right. Well, you just Swifties. If you see this, it's just the implication. Nothing's gonna happen, but there's an implication.
I don't like where this is headed.
They might boo Taylor Swift. Is what he's saying.
I'm disavowing from all of this.
All right. Before this gets too much off the rails, let's go ahead and finish this up, y'all. Thank you for another great episode. Hope you guys enjoyed this. Like, subscribe. But otherwise, that concludes the football segment. We'll see you again next week. Your boys are signing out.
Yeah, and be on the lookout for some smaller stuff. I got the Stars something probably coming out tomorrow when I reshoot it, and better artwork and better editing. And we love you guys, and I love you two boys, and have a great rest of your week.
Good night, peeps.
Good night, everybody.
Peace.